Hey there, welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube channel and podcast network. The college football playoff is officially into the final four teams of the season. That means there are 3 games left. What does that mean? College hoops is right around the corner for being, the center of the sports world. Talking all attention on college hoops as conference play is about to begin for, the Big 12. Some have already started. The Big East, ACC, Big 10 have already started play. Not too many incredible games yet, but this weekend is going to be the true dive all the way in for incredible basketball games in conference play. So the show today is going to look like this. We're going to talk about those results that happened on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday just real briefly. This is going to be a real quick show today, hopefully. And then the meat of the show is just going to be previewing the weekend. Today, we're recording this on Friday in the morning on the East Coast. We have some good games tonight. We have 8 games that we're going to talk about. And then Saturday is absolutely stacked with conference play matchups. We're going to talk about all of those. A lot of bubble-ish matchups. So we'll talk about what, these games, why some teams really might need this games in terms of their resume. And then on Sunday, there are also a couple games. So we're just going to talk about that with the opening betting lines as according to KenPom. So the lines are not out, obviously, for Saturday or Sunday's games yet, but we are going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. If you're new here, our typical weekly layout is on Monday. We're usually doing a bunch of rankings. We record it right after the AP poll, give my rankings, resume rankings, stuff like that, talk about some KenPom rankings. And then Friday is going to be bracketology talk. However, today there's not a lot of change from last week's bracketology show because, there hasn't been a lot of games going on or any there's not enough change to really do a full show on it, but that will be a weekly thing. So be sure to come back for that and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. All right. Once again, let's talk about just the quickly. Starting on Monday, nothing really happened for those watching on YouTube. Got the graphic pulled up for those listening. I'm not going to talk too much about it because not a ton happened. Number 2, Michigan did take down McNeese, both. Obviously, Michigan's tournament team, McNeese is the heavy favorite in the Southland. Michigan scored 112 on them. They were up, 40 right away. Michigan's awesome. Alabama beat Yale in what kind of felt like a 4-ish 13 matchup. Yale is one of maybe the 6 or 7 mid-majors that have a chance of getting an at-large, but after, a couple losses that they, not really their fault, but they're on the outside looking in terms of, having a chance to make an at-large, which isn't, too hot of a take there. But Alabama does get the job done. Arizona beats South Dakota State. Michigan State beats Cornell. Purdue beats Kent State. The only power conference game was Washington taking on Utah, and you would expect Washington to win at home. They did. They took down Utah 74-65. Houston kind of held off Middle Tennessee State 69-60. Cincinnati did beat Lipscomb. Georgia beat LIU. And then the game we talked about on our last show as previewing a couple of these games that was kind of more interesting than people would imagine is Quinnipiac taking on Marist, 2 MAAC favorites. Quinnipiac did get the job done at home, but this was a good game all the way through, 64-58. Quinnipiac got the job done on Tuesday. Was a little bit better of a day. California hosted Louisville. California has been getting a lot of hype. I think they're a little bit fraudulent, a little bit computer trickers. Louisville put a beating on them, 90-70. Butler versus Creighton. This was a really big one for maybe 4th/5th, maybe 6th. Best teams in the Big East. The Big East desperately needs some wins. And Creighton, off to an undefeated start in the Big East. They get the job done over Butler, 89-85. North Carolina beat Florida State. No surprise there. Florida State is terrible. Seton Hall goes to Marquette. Speaking of terrible, Marquette loses at home 79-73. Notre Dame and Stanford in one of the ugliest basketball games you can possibly watch. Notre Dame wins at Stanford 47-40. Yes, that is a final score. New Mexico played Boise State. Boise State gets the job done 62-53. We're going to talk a little bit more about Boise State as they have a big one coming up on Saturday. Pitt loses to Miami. Miami needs these games. They're going to be a bubble team. Colorado State loses to Nevada. Nevada is probably a top 4 team in the Mountain West yet again. Gonzaga held off San Diego 99-93. This was a pretty good one. And then Miami of Ohio stays undefeated 14-0 with a win at Bowling Green. This isn't a slouch of a Bowling Green team. Bowling Green is a good basketball team this year. Remember, they won at Kansas State by a lot. Miami goes to Bowling Green and stays undefeated. We'll talk about Miami a little bit more here in a little bit. And then on Wednesday, just quickly, going through it. And one of the better games of the entire season so far, Virginia Tech and Virginia in a rivalry game goes to triple overtime, where Virginia Tech does end up getting a victory, 95-85, dominated in triple overtime. It was crazy at the end of, was it single overtime or double overtime, where Virginia missed a three, had a quick little putback where everyone thought that three was going to be the last shot, and then the clock was, started late. It was a whole thing, but Virginia Tech does end up getting the win in overtime. Virginia Tech would be in the NCAA tournament if it started today. Virginia also in good shape. I've said for a while, even in the preseason show, I'm like, they just scream like 6 or 7 seed for me. UConn won at Xavier by 1,000,000, 90-67. Clemson did fend off Syracuse at Syracuse 64-61. Syracuse needed this win. Clemson comfortably in the tournament. Syracuse, not even close. St. John's wins at Georgetown. This Ed Cooley experiment seems to be kind of falling off. I wouldn't be surprised. We haven't talked much about Ed Cooley being on the hot seat, but this just isn't really working. They had the whole thing with the fan hitting a little kid with a water bottle after the loss against Xavier. And now, they just can't build any momentum after a good start to the season. Georgia Tech and Duke was a really good basketball game. Kwesi Reeves had a really good game for Georgia Tech. Bayandongo is officially back for Georgia Tech, but Duke does end up getting the win. DePaul and Villanova was closer than you might think. Villanova gets the job done, 71-66. NC State beats Wake Forest. Speaking of hot seats, Steve Forbes, unfortunately, is towards the hot seat right now. Memphis did pick up their win in the American, their first win in the American Conference, starting off 1-0 with a win over a good North Texas team, 57-48. VCU beats St. Bonaventure 89-82, and then Wichita State wins at UAB 75-70. So not a real busy week, but some decent games. All right, let's talk about this weekend of hoops. Starting today on Friday. Right now it's about 10:45 a.m. on the East Coast. We have a ranked-on-ranked matchup to start the night. 7 o'clock on Peacock, number 24 USC. When's the last time you've seen not the number one team in the nation playing another ranked team favored by over 20 points? Number 2 Michigan at home is favored by 21.5 over USC. I'm going to bet USC in this game. That's just like Michigan, deservingly so, is favored by 1,000,000 over everyone, and they beat everyone's brains in. Villanova looks like the third best team in the Big East, and Michigan was up 30 on them at the half. So this USC team, we'll see. They're without Rodney Rice, but if you're going to give me a ranked team, and USC's ranked, like they deserve to be ranked. They won Maui. They've beaten. The Maui field wasn't too strong, but they look like a ranked team, a top 25 team. Probably be like a 6 or 7 seed come March Madness time. As of now, Michigan 21.5. They're absolutely awesome. The heavy favorite to win the national championship right now, but I am going to bet USC plus 21.5. That's just too many points for me. 7:30 on Peacock, sticking in the Big Ten, Oregon and Maryland. This game will be played at Maryland. Both teams in desperate need of a victory. Oregon has dropped like crazy at KenPom and in every sort of human ranking / computer ranking. Maryland also just not as good as we thought they would be. I would lean Maryland in this game, even being the underdog. I think just that home court environment, because I think both teams are just very similar. Both teams like 13th through 15th in the Big Ten this season, at least in my opinion. I think it's going to be Minnesota, Rutgers, and Penn State finishing at the bottom. And then these are probably your next 2 worst teams. Maybe throw Northwestern in the mix. 8 o'clock on the ACC network. Number 16, Louisville goes to Stanford. Stanford coming off that real ugly game, but a really well-coached team. However, Louisville is favored by 8.5 in this game. I think Louisville covers 8.5 in this game. However, it could be a little bit of a trap game, going into deep into ACC, into ACC play this season. I believe, let me double check here. I believe Louisville has a solid game this weekend again. No, it's on Tuesday where they play Duke. So that's why it could be seen as a little bit of a trap game going to Stanford. You're obviously kind of looking ahead to Duke, but that game's not till Tuesday. So I would lean Louisville minus 8.5 in normal situations, but with it being a little bit of a trap game, probably will hold off on that one. Ohio State at 8 o'clock travels to Rutgers. This game's on Peacock. Ohio State's favored by 9.5. Don't lose this game, Ohio State. If you lose this game, you'd be on the outside looking in right now. They're just about as bubbly of a team as there is in the entire country. Ohio State fans have had a very rough couple days, losing to Miami in the college football playoff. Being a resident of Columbus, it has been pretty ugly down here, and I don't think Jake Diebler is going to come to the rescue for the Ohio State sports program, but don't lose this game at Rutgers. 9 o'clock on Peacock, the game of the night, number 9 Michigan State taking on number 13 Nebraska at Pinnacle Bank. When's the last time Michigan State has been a top 10 team playing Nebraska and is an underdog? No matter where this game is played, they're an underdog as a top 10 team. I wonder if this has ever happened. I'm sure there's research out there that you can do, but just crazy. Nebraska favored by 1.5 in this game. Sorry, Nebraska fans. I'm rooting for you to win a game in March Madness this season. I really hope it happens. I just lean Michigan State in this game. It's going to be weird. It's not a game I would recommend betting. It's going to be a 3-point split sort of game, in my opinion, because Nebraska can really shoot the ball, and Michigan State's obviously just going to dominate you physically. So I just trust the scheme and the defense, the perimeter defense that Michigan State has with Jeremiah Fears out there, Cohen Carr. I think they're going to defend the three well enough and have the scheme and just kind of dominate the paint. Rank Mast is fantastic. Looks like a potential All-American this season. Just putting him in the middle, towards the elbow and just dishing, basically running the entire offense through him, he's a tremendous passer for a big man. He's been fantastic. I just trust that Michigan State can kind of contain the perimeter with, the tremendous perimeter defenses that they have and kind of stop the three and kind of make it an uglier basketball game. But if Nebraska is just throwing up shots, no one goes into Pinnacle Bank and just dominates. They're just throwing up shots that are going in. Could be Nebraska, but I do lean a little bit towards Michigan State in this one. 9:00 on ESPN2, West Virginia, who's just kind of been going along, doing their business this year. Not great, not bad. I believe they're like exactly where they started the season in preseason KenPom rankings. Iowa State has obviously been awesome. They're favored by 18.5 in this game at home. 9:00 on ESPN Plus. Seattle, who might be the third best team in the WCC, probably more like fourth or maybe even fifth, probably even fifth. But they're right there. They haven't been bad this entire season. Taking on Gonzaga. Gonzaga favored by 24.5 on ESPN Plus. Gonzaga's awesome. 11:00 ESPN2. Two teams that are in the conversation. They're both on the outside looking in right now. Notre Dame is probably a little closer than Cal to being an NCAA tournament team. But it's a big game. Notre Dame at Cal. Cal favored by 3.5 in this game. Notre Dame has to go all the way to the West Coast. This game's at 11:00. I hate that. I hate when ESPN does this, but it's a late one. It should be a kind of a dogfight the entire way. I'm curious to see what happens with this one. Notre Dame did lose Marcus Burton for pretty much the entire season. I believe it's the entire season. It might be, out indefinitely, but I think it's kind of an addition by subtraction sort of thing. They kind of seem to be finding a little bit of a different identity without Marcus Burton in the lineup. And I wouldn't be surprised if this team just gets a little bit grittier. And we saw what they did against Stanford, winning ugly. Notre Dame under Shrewsbury, who I thought was a tremendous coach coming into Notre Dame. He did great things at Penn State. They just haven't won the games where it's like, you're in position, win this game, and you got a good chance to, kind of like Wake Forest, you got a good chance to really boost your stock in the ACC and the bubble talk. Just haven't really got it done with Marcus Burton being there. I'm a little curious to see if they get a little better without Marcus Burton. Now, Marcus Burton is a great individual player by himself, and it's no disrespect to him, but I'm a little curious to see about this Notre Dame team and if they can, kind of come together as one without Marcus Burton in the lineup. Cal, kind of in need of a couple. They're probably going to have to go 12-6 in the ACC, in my opinion, to make the NCAA tournament. So this is a start that they need here. You don't want to start 0-2 after that loss against Louisville. All right, let's talk about Saturday, which is the day to know. So this is just one graphic. We're actually going to pull up a bunch of different graphics. We're going to have two graphics, and then I will even talk about more other games to kind of pay attention to, because I can only fit 11 on each. So 22 games plus a couple more. I'll try and get through them quickly. Starting at 11 o'clock. Now, I hate it on ESPN for starting a game at 11 o'clock p.m. I love it when they start games at 11 o'clock a.m., a little standalone game here, and it's a really good one. Number 21, Virginia, taking on NC State. Maybe a battle for the fourth best team in the ACC. Your top three is definitely Duke, Louisville, and North Carolina, in whatever order you want to put them. Virginia, I think right now is definitely fourth. You got, NC State, SMU. I'm sure there's a couple more that I'm missing, but it's a really good one. NC State is favored by 3 in this one at home. We'll see what Darian Williams can do. He needs to pick up he needs to get off to, he's got to be a star for this NC State team instead of just kind of going along with the pack. Like, he's been serviceable, but he hasn't been elite yet. He was the preseason ACC player of the year. He's got to start getting into form in ACC play. For Virginia, they're 0-1 in the ACC. I do believe, like right now, gun to my head, I think they're a top 4 team in the ACC. I think they're the 4th best team in the ACC. It's been a little bit of a tough stretch because Virginia Tech is good. Playing at Virginia Tech, you lose that one in triple overtime. And then at NC State. So you start off 0-2, and then you get, Cal at home and then Stanford at home, which you should win both of those. But then you get Louisville, at SMU, and then a home game against North Carolina. Tough start to the ACC play for Virginia, but it will get definitely easier down the stretch. So interesting matchup there in the ACC. 12 o'clock on ESPN, we got Kentucky taking on number 14 Alabama. We'll see how much Jaden Quaintance plays in this one. Jalen Lowe seems to be back in the lineup for Kentucky. Alabama is favored by 5 at home in this matchup. I think Alabama gets them, quite frankly. I think this Kentucky hype is a little bit too far. It's gone a little too far. Like we said, the sky was falling for Kentucky once we know this team's not a very good shooting team. I just think Alabama's system is just too good for, like, Alabama is going to score the ball no matter what. And I know Jaden Quaintance is going to be a beast down low. However, Alabama doesn't take a lot of shots down low. They don't take a lot of mid-rangers to kind of float it over Jaden Quaintance, who is just a freak of a human being and a tremendous defender. Alabama either gets to the rim or fires up a million threes, as we know, and I expect them just in their system being at home. I think I will probably take Alabama minus. I think this line's even going to go down to probably 3.5, 4.5. I'm going to take Alabama in that game. 12 o'clock on TNT, Villanova, the definite third best team in the Big East right now after that win against Seton Hall. They're in position to be probably a 7 through 9 seed as of now in March Madness. Travels to Butler. Butler is on the bubble. Butler needs a win here. Villanova is favored by 1 on the road in this one. This game is on TNT at 12 o'clock. I think Villanova better. Butler, I'm staying away from betting Butler games because I don't really know what to think about them right now. They're kind of like, I mean this in a good way, and this is good for Butler fans. They're kind of just like boring. They're just like every game is like a really close game. So I guess you can say that's the opposite of boring, but they're just like doing every single game. It's like they're favored, they're a 1-point underdog. They lose by 2. They're a 3-point underdog. They lose by 3. You're a 7-point favorite. You win by 7. It's just kind of been like that sort of, they're just exactly what you expect. And they're better than what we've kind of expected, but every single game they're right there for a tournament berth. Sticking in the Big East, 12 o'clock on Fox, Providence travels to St. John's. So a couple of ones we're going to talk about here are going to be in terms of their coaching, because Providence, I've said it a million times, and I hate talking bad about coaches, but it's just like Ed Cooley doesn't seem to be working out at Georgetown. It doesn't seem like Kim English is working out at Providence. They were picked 4th in the preseason Big East poll. They have a ton of talent, and they just haven't been very good to start this season. If St. John's were to win this game by like 20 plus, and it's like 97-72, St. John's wins the game. I never expect to see a midseason coaching change, but this would be raising a lot of conversations for Kim English. He came into the season on the hot seat. I know there's more that goes into it, buyouts and stuff like that, but curious to see what would happen. I would expect them to keep it a little bit closer because I think they're a little undervalued because they do have they have a very prolific offense. Their defense is horrible. So if St. John's can make shots, it could get ugly in this one. I'm not going to bet it because I think Providence will play up to the level, but St. John's is definitely better. And St. John's has underperformed this season as well, but we know they're still a good team. They're still top 20 at Ken Pom. So curious to see that one with Providence and, the coaching situation. We're also going to talk about that, as you can look a little lower on the graphic, with Cincinnati. But let's talk about these other ones first. 1 o'clock on the SEC Network. Auburn taking on number 23 Georgia. Georgia's been very good this season. They're 25th at Ken Pom. Auburn's 34th at Ken Pom. Georgia's favored by 5 in this one. 2 incredibly high-scoring offenses. This could be a 1st to 90 kind of game, maybe even 1st to 100. Neither team, Georgia, it hasn't been bad on the defensive side of the ball. They just play so fast. And I kind of give credit to Mike White here, a guy who can just kind of switch his entire identity and be adaptable. And he's done that with Georgia. He did it last year. They were real physical and could score the ball. This year, Blue Kane is just one of the most fun players to watch in all the SEC. So he just kind of changed his whole system around, is just kind of run and gun right now, and a really fun team to watch. But Auburn can also score the ball. So Todd Pettiford, Keyshawn Hall, going to have to score a bunch of points against this Georgia team. 1 o'clock ESPN 2. Speaking of teams that can score the ball, Oklahoma State, really good offensive team traveling to number 15 Texas Tech. Texas Tech favored by 11 in this one. I'm still kind of holding out hope on Texas Tech. I took them to the Final Four in the preseason. Haven't quite been all that yet, but haven't quite got all the way healthy yet. We'll see. Christian Anderson, JT Toppin should be in for some big games against an Oklahoma State defense that isn't great, but they can really score the ball. Should be another high-scoring game there. 1:30 on CBS. 2 of the best players in college basketball that you'll find. Number 10 BYU and AJ Devanza, who is quietly, I know it's crazy to say because, personally, I would have him number 1 pick in the NBA draft right now. I had it Darren Peterson coming in, but with all just the stuff going around, and I know it's not Darren Peterson's fault, but I don't know. AJ Demancia has been so good, and you can just tell it's like this guy could lead the NBA in scoring one day. Like he is fantastic. And Darren Peterson, just like he can't get healthy. It's like that kind of raises, I don't know. To me, it's not a big enough difference between Darren Peterson and AJ Demancia of like, okay, well, I know Kansas is holding out, or Darren Peterson's family or whatever is holding out Darren Peterson, but AJ Demancia might just be better in general. And as of right now, he looks like he's better. So I would be taking AJ Demancia. But they traveled to Kansas State, a hard place to win. And PJ Haggerty, who is one of the best scorers in all of college basketball, he's been a little bit up and down this season. But Jerome Tang, kind of on the hot seat as well. It's been, an influx of NIL money for Kansas State last season. They were kind of the face of it with Coleman Hawkins, who they were just that was a whole thing. This year they paid PJ Haggerty a ton of money, but the roster construction's really weird. However, I do definitely lean Kansas State +8 at home. That's too many points for me, especially with PJ Haggerty, and that place is going to be rocking. Everyone wants to see AJ Demancia play, so I would definitely take Kansas State +8. I don't think it'll be that big. Probably like if it's any bit worse than or lower than like 6.5, maybe even 5.5, I'd probably take Kansas State. But I have a feeling it's going to go, definitely in the direction of Kansas State. But they're in desperate need of a win. Jerome Tang, like we said, kind of on the hot seat right now. However, I believe it was the Eye on College Basketball guys, Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish talked about, I think it was Matt Norlander, talked about Jerome Tang's buyout being like $19 million or something. So it seems like Jerome Tang is going to be back next year. That's the part of the, the whole hot seat that I don't really understand is the buyout stuff. I don't know how much money these schools are willing to, buy out and stuff like that. I don't know if many people do, but yeah, so I would expect Kansas State to be there next year. And everyone loves Jerome Tang. He's just a good guy, it seems, real fun guy. But they desperately need some wins for their at-large consideration. 2:00 on Peacock, number 17 Kansas travels to UCF. This has been kind of just a little bit of a back and forth sort of thing. Remember, UCF picked up their first ever win in the Big 12 against Kansas when Kansas was like preseason number 1, and then last year Kansas ended up beating UCF by 51. So like kind of some bad blood between the programs. Should be a fun one. I don't expect Darren Peterson to play. I don't think. I haven't really heard anything. I'm kind of just, I don't know. It's disappointing to see Darren Peterson not play college basketball. I know it's like you got to hold out for the NBA and you got to be fully healthy, and those hamstrings are nothing to play around with. But it's like if I'm an NBA GM, I'm looking at this and I'm like, he's not playing. His family's holding him out, and I know that's a more regular thing than some might expect. Parents do, like, they're in the best interest of their child. They're in the best interest of his career, but these NBA GMs want to see him play, especially when there's legit competition with AJ Demancia. I know Cam Boozer's awesome, but to me, it's fairly obvious that the top 2 picks will be AJ Demancia and Darren Peterson just for the next level. Cam Boozer's been the best player in college basketball, but at the next level, you can see it with Demancia and obviously Peterson, who's just a shot maker. But as of right now, I would expect Darren Peterson to be the number 2 pick in the draft unless, he gets some more time in Big 12 play. And for college basketball, it's better if he is here because he is a face at one of the biggest brands in all of college basketball. UCF, they would be in the tournament as of now, and they probably wouldn't even be a double-digit seed. They'd probably be an 8 or 9 seed right now. They're off to a good start this season, so a good opportunity at home against probably a Darren Peterson-less Kansas team. 2:00 on Fox, number 8 Houston traveling to Cincinnati. Like we said, if this game gets out of hand and Houston wins this game at Cincinnati by 23, they win the game like 70-47, and the Cincinnati offense is just still pathetic. There might be real considerations. I think, like, I said it before, if there's one coach that I'm like, he's not going to be back next year, it would be Wes Miller at Cincinnati. It's just not working. This is going to be like, I actually had someone, I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was, but had a comment on our Instagram post where it was like Houston's defense just isn't as good as last year. And it was like, it kind of made me think, because it was on the post where they gave up 60 points to Middle Tennessee State. And it's like, I know they gave up 60 points to Middle Tennessee State and they only won the game by 9, but it's like, yeah, usually that's games where they win like 69 to like 45. Like they would never give up more than like 50 points against, these lower level mid-major teams. And it kind of raised it made me think about that. So that was a good comment to like, yeah, you're right. But so we'll see if Cincinnati can get any sort of offense against Houston's defense, and maybe they just turn it up a notch in Big 12 play. So I'm not sure if maybe, I don't know. I just think Houston is going to absolutely bully Sincere Harris and bully Kirk Risa, and I think Houston wins by more than 7, and real conversations start happening, quite frankly. 2:00 on TNT. This is a really fun one. Maybe the battle for the 7th best team in the Big 12. Baylor taking on TCU. TCU's been very good after losing that opening night game to New Orleans. Baylor has just kind of, they've made headlines. I'm not even going to dive into that whole thing until we know the whole story or whatever. But Baylor has just been okay. Cam Carr's been really good. They do need a big man. So, the whole James and whatever his name is thing. But TCU is favored by 1 at home. I think everyone in the country is rooting for TCU just after that news broke. I saw a bunch of comments like, oh, everyone hates Baylor now. But I still like Baylor. I like Scott Drew. I also like Jamie Dixon and TCU. But we'll see what that ruling is with James. What is it? Ndaje or something? But yeah, don't have a particular lean in this game. 2:00 on ESPNU. Vanderbilt, still undefeated, number 11 team in the country, favored by 10 at South Carolina. We know how scrappy South Carolina can be at home specifically. Vanderbilt and kind of everyone wants to beat Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is the team to beat in the SEC right now, so we'll see if South Carolina can hang with them. Moving on to graphic number 2. So that first one was, the early morning games. This is the 2:15 start all the way to, we have a 10 o'clock game on here. Starting at 2:15, number 12, North Carolina traveling to SMU. SMU favored by 1 in this one. SMU needs it. They are right on the bubble right now. Probably would be in the tournament. But we'll see what Andy Enfield can do. Andy Enfield always just, 35th to like 60th at KenPom, it seems. I think North Carolina is going to win the game. North Carolina is still 23rd at KenPom, and I don't understand why. I think their front court just bullies SMU, but if that home court environment is rocking, it could be an SMU victory. 3:00 ESPN2, ranked on ranked matchup. Number 19, Tennessee, taking on number 18, Arkansas. This should be a fun one. There was kind of a lot of talk on who was coming into the season, who was the 4th best freshman. Was it Caleb Wilson, who we just mentioned with North Carolina? Was it Nate Ament, or was it Michael Brown Jr. from Louisville, or Darius Acuff at Arkansas? So 2 of those guys in the conversation trying to improve some draft stock. I think Darius Acuff is better than Nate Ament, but they're completely different players. Arkansas favored by 1 in that one. I would lean Arkansas in this game, but don't have I know Arkansas shooting splits could be due for a little bit of regression in this one, but I'm going to go Arkansas in this game. 3:30 on ESPN Plus. This is our mid-major game of the day and of the week. Akron, who has a legit chance of being an at-large team. Let me pull up Akron's resume right now for those mid-major lovers. They're 10-3. Their lone losses they lost to Murray State on a neutral. That's not good. They lost by 3 to Yale on a neutral, and then they lost at Purdue. They don't have an at-large caliber resume. I take that back, but still a really good team. If they were to go 18-0 in the MAC and then lose in the championship game to, say, Miami of Ohio, they could potentially sneak in as an at-large because they're 56th at KenPom right now. Miami of Ohio, undefeated on the season, 14-0. And what is best about this game? Coach John Gross at Akron and Travis Steele at Miami are brothers. They are brothers battling against each other. Akron's the heavy favorite in the MAC. Miami of Ohio, one of the remaining undefeated teams at 14-0. So really fun mid-major game there in the MAC. Akron favored by 3, even on the road. 3:45 on CBS. Both teams, by the way, Akron and Miami, really good offenses. So it could be a complete shootout there. 3:45 on CBS. Number 6, Duke heads to Florida State. I think Florida State is just terrible. This is just ugly. They got some hype in the preseason because they played good against Alabama and in a exhibition game, and that kind of bought me in a little bit as well. I'm not going to lie. But Duke is much better. But Duke, I don't think is as much of a juggernaut as some people might think this season. I think the ACC is up for grabs between Duke, North Carolina, and Louisville. Duke is definitely they're the favorite, and they should be. But I think they're a little bit more vulnerable than some people might realize. However, they're favored by 15 in this game. 4:00 on ESPNU, a very bubbly matchup. LSU, who I've said is kind of computer trickers, and I still believe that, but I do believe they're a solid team. Same goes for Texas A&M. I think they're solid as well. 37th at KenPom is LSU. Texas A&M is 50th at KenPom. A&M is actually favored by 1 via KenPom in this game. A&M needs some wins, but they don't have any bad losses. They lost to Oklahoma State, UCF, and SMU are their only 3 losses on the season. I think all 3 of those teams would be in the tournament if the tournament started right now. Oklahoma State would probably be your closest one. Are they? SMU and UCF would definitely be in. So we'll see about Texas A&M and LSU. I'm really curious to see the result of that game. Number one team in the land traveling to Utah. Arizona favored by 17 on the road in that game. Would expect Arizona to just dominate the paint in that one. Then talking about some Big Ten play, 6 o'clock on Peacock. UCLA travels to number 25 Iowa. Iowa is favored by 6 at home in this game. I'm really curious to see this one. This has some good matchups in it between, Donovan Dent, Bennett Sturts. Iowa, you would just expect to really struggle with UCLA's athleticism and physicality. However, UCLA just still doesn't have a 5-man that is real serviceable. Xavier Booker has not been good, and he wasn't very good at Michigan State, let's be honest. And it just hasn't really worked out at UCLA yet. And Donovan Dent also hasn't been, what he was supposed to be thought of. He's been okay, but still hasn't been like a All-American level at all. Him and, like we talked about Darian Williams, but same with Donovan Dent. He had probably even higher expectations than Darian Williams coming into the season and just hasn't been too spectacular. Bennett Sturts has been as advertised as you'd expect, staying in the same system. That's why sometimes staying in the same system is what's best for these players. But Iowa favored by 6. I think that's too many points. I would take UCLA plus the 6, but really, really interested to see that matchup. Could be a really fun one. 7 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, number 20, Illinois traveling to Penn State. I don't think Penn State's very good, but I do think Illinois is a little bit vulnerable at times. But it's definitely towards Illinois, but 16 points, too many points. I would take Penn State plus 16. 8 o'clock on Fox, number 5, Purdue taking on Wisconsin. People have kind of forgotten about Purdue. They're 4th at KenPom. I know they got drilled by Iowa State at home. Since then, let's talk about Purdue for a second, because we haven't talked that much about them. They won at Alabama. That's a fantastic win. They won the neutral site game against Memphis. They won a neutral site game against Texas Tech by 30. They beat Auburn by 28. They beat Minnesota, Marquette, Rutgers, Kent State, whatever. And then they do have that loss against Iowa State. I think that was more of a fluky game. Now they get Wisconsin at Wisconsin. They're favored by 8 in this game, so they are expected to win. They get 3 home games in a row against teams that they should beat by double figures. Washington, Penn State, Iowa, they probably not by double figures, but they're favored by 9 in that one, so close. Then you go at USC and UCLA, so those will be some tough ones. But if you win that game through Iowa, you're looking at a 16-1 team, a team that was preseason number 1. To me, that's living up to expectations. Purdue they're just fine. They're a national championship threat. Wisconsin, in desperate need of a win. They would be on the outside looking in right now. They're still 42nd at KenPom, but they've gotten blitzed by their top-tier competition. They lost to Nebraska by 30, lost TCU by 11, lost to BYU by 28. They did compete with Villanova, where they lost by 10 on a semi-home game. But their best win, 54th ranked Northwestern in Big Ten play. They beat Marquette, whatever. They beat Providence, whatever. They don't have enough wins to this is a good chance for them to get a start. They have a gauntlet coming up. They get Purdue, UCLA, then Michigan. Yikes. Pick up one of those wins and you're probably feeling good about yourself, but 2 would be really good for their at-large hopes. 8:30 on the SEC Network, number 22, Florida traveling to Missouri. Missouri beat Florida last year. Remember that one? This Missouri team just doesn't seem to gel. They've played an incredibly weak non-conference schedule. They haven't, when you don't schedule, you're not prepared for games like this. And Florida's favored by 6 on the road. I think Florida gets them in a little bit of a revenge game. Not sure by more than 6. That seems about right to me, but I'm going to take Florida to win that game. 10 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. We said we'd talk about Boise State and San Diego State taking on each other, 51 versus 52 at KenPom. Very bubbly teams. San Diego State is not a tournament team as of right now. Their best win is against Oregon in Utah Valley, and that's it. Outside of that, they haven't suffered any real bad losses outside of the game to Troy, which they lost at home in double overtime. Troy could be a tournament team out of the Sun Belt, but yeah, that's a bad loss. They need to pick up big wins in Mountain West play this season. And then for Boise State, you lose to Hawaii Pacific Division II team in the season opener. Since then, been really good. They don't have any bad losses. They picked up good wins. They beat 32nd ranked St. Mary's, 48th ranked Butler, 88th ranked Wichita State, 81st ranked Utah Valley, 72nd ranked New Mexico. A lot of top 100 wins. Only losses came to Nevada, neutral site games to USC and NC State in the Maui, but they've competed with them. They are probably, as of now, the second best team in the Mountain West behind Utah State. Kind of a battle for the second best team. San Diego State favored by 4 in that one. Elsewhere around the country, I said I'd mention just a few more. There are a couple more games just to kind of keep an eye on. You got Clemson at Pitt. Clemson shouldn't hopefully not lose that game. Oklahoma hosts Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been bad. Oklahoma would be in the tournament right now, in my opinion, or right on the bubble somewhere. Don't lose that game if you're Oklahoma. Arizona State and Colorado have both been decent. Both teams have a chance of making the NCAA tournament. You got Colorado at Grand Canyon. You got Xavier at DePaul. So there's a lot of good games going on Saturday. All right, let's quickly just talk about Sunday. A couple Big East games, starting with Creighton at Seton Hall. This might be this, in my opinion, after Seton Hall lost to Villanova, and Creighton's been really good. Creighton is, I believe, are they 2-0 or 3-0? They're 3-0 in Big East play. Like we said, someone's got to win Big East games. The conference is not good. Seton Hall had that loss to Villanova, as we mentioned. So this is kind of a game for the fourth best team in the Big East. Two teams that have at-large-ish resumes right now. Creighton really struggled to start the season, but they've gotten back on track. Seton Hall's been good all season long. Seton Hall's favored by 3 in this one at home. Marquette at UConn. UConn's favored by 22 in that game. Man, Marquette is bad. UConn should kill them. Tulsa at North Texas. Tulsa has a legit chance at an at-large. They're 66th at KenPom right now. They're 13-1 on the season. They don't have any truly elite wins. They got a couple top 200 wins. They beat Northern Iowa, who's 93rd. They beat Rhode Island, who's 117th. Austin Peay, San Jose State, New Mexico State, Western Kentucky, all inside the top 200. So haven't really beaten anyone, but they also haven't lost anyone. Their only loss was at Kansas State, and that loss was only by 1 point. So they have a chance, but they're going to have to really kind of run through the American to get an at-large caliber win there. Tulsa is favored by 4 on the road in that one. And then Washington at Indiana in the Big Ten on the Big Ten Network at 8 o'clock. Indiana favored by 6 in that one. Two teams that are very bubble-ish, so a lot of bubble implications Indiana would be in my opinion, right now. Washington would probably be out right now. So big one for both teams there. Alrighty, that's going to do it for the show today. Just talking a little bit about conference play. Should be a tremendous weekend to really start putting college basketball on the map, because I don't know when the next round of the college football playoff is, but yeah, it's going to be a Saturday for college basketball. I think there's some NFL games as well, but I'm ready for get this football out of here and let's start talking. Let's have people tuning into. I just can't wait for Alabama at Auburn in the SEC, and then Iowa State at Kansas in the Big 12. Like, let's get these on national TV where everyone's watching it. It's right around the corner, and it starts with when conference play is beginning, which has started, but it's really going to pick up this upcoming week. So before you head out of here, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the show. Turn on those post notifications. We are going to be doing a lot of live show bracketology shows where I want to interact with the people, answer people's questions, gather people's opinions on some teams, whether they have good resumes, bad resumes, better resumes, worse resumes than I might think. Then follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Like some posts on there, comment to some other people. I don't really respond to that many comments on Instagram and TikTok because people are mean on there, and it's whatever way they view the world is the right way. And I'm not saying what I view the world is the right way, but people could do it in a nicer fashion. So if you want to respond to a comment, I do respond to comments on YouTube. So leave a comment on here, and we'll be back again on Monday to talk. Like we said, a ranking show, and then next Friday will be another bracketology show heading into the weekend while previewing a couple of the weekend games. So everyone enjoy the rest of this weekend. Hopefully everyone had a happy New Year and a Merry Christmas. We will talk to you again on Monday. Enjoy this good slate of ball on Saturday. Till then, take care.